Let's talk about facts when I say that I've been here a while. Walk in my shoes, I can tell you, you won't make a mile. I am the judge and the jury, so put them on trial. Murder is foul, allow me to teach a new theory, the purpose is vile. There's no coming back, so you can eat shit with a smile. I've been in the game, ran up the bag, just to put it in the pile. Create the frame, bought up the land, now we import.
I mean, I don't even know if this man needs like an introduction, because like unless you have been hiding and you don't know what's going on in New Haven, then I mean, we talk 35 years of service.
35 years.
You
Since
know,
1987.
1987. When we talk about empowering the community, just being a preserver, a protector of the community, pushing the culture, we have to say Scot X. When you talk about just good men, kings, you have to say Scot X. There's nothing else that you can say other than that. I mean, you do everything. We just discussed that. You know, I'm proud to just be sitting in the same room, and that's just the fact, man. Thank you. Thank you for
I appreciate
being here.
Thank
you for everything you do.
Thank you.
And you still got a lot more work to do. So
yeah, hopefully, I got a little bit more in the tank.
I think you got a lot in the tank. There's a lot in the tank.
Started.
I mean, 35 years. Like
35 years.
Where does that strength and where does that motivation come from to continue to get up and keep doing, the work?
I think that, every time I get up in the morning, I'm blessed to get up in the morning. I just ask God, what are your instructions? And I just try to, get up and try to do as much as I can.
Yeah.
And then whatever I didn't get done at the end of the day, I just ask Him, can I get another day to, continue it on. That's all. So I just do it day by day.
An NAACP Image Award.
Yeah, I got Activist of the Year this year.
I mean, Activist of the Year. Come on, man. Come on.
There we go.
BET.
I think it's the first time. I think it's the first time somebody from Connecticut got it.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, it's the first time.
53rd.
53rd award, right?
Yeah,
53rd annual.
53rd annual national
That's
award, man.
Yeah.
I applaud you.
Big Joe.
What's up, brother?
What's up?
Man, listen.
I know y'all got a lot of stories.
We do, man. I think we ran parallel in life. I'm younger. He's older. Somehow he managed to see me from up there. But
I always kept my eye on him.
Listen.
Joe was always on top of it.
To talk about the Image Award, a lot of people see you now, but something that I like to do for the record is get the true story. You know what I mean? A lot of people see who you are now, and I want them to see where you came from. You know what I mean? So I like to go back a little. You know what I mean? I like to see where Scot X started and give them a feel, and it's empowering to a lot of the young kids, man. And that's what this is about. It's for the record to, it's to be informative. You know what I mean? And help the youth, which, like you said, you've been doing for 35 years, man. But we want some that are currently where you were when you started to make that change in your life, to see this now.
Well,
see
I think it all begins with my grandparents and my parents. Our families are similar. They're very rooted in the civil rights movement, very community-oriented families. And our family originally is around the Gulf Street area. Yeah. We used to have the Esdaile's Lounge on Gulf Street. My grandmother then eventually lived on Dickerman Street, very heavily rooted in the Elks. Grew up in St. Luke's Church on Whaley Avenue. We grew up in New Hallville originally, and a lot of our family was also in KSI around the Bear Street, around Trooper area. Yeah. The Antillian Center on Kensington Street. So I kind of like, my cousins grew up on Shelton Avenue, originally grew up on Lander Street, near Lander and Winchester Avenue. So I would just ride my bike from one part of the community to the other part of the community. So as a kid, riding, my uncle Wilbur Esdaile was a doctor, and he had his office on Dixwell Avenue, and a lot of our family was oriented around my uncle's office. My sister grew up working in the office, and I kind of like, just playing basketball, riding my bike, the teen center over here. And then eventually, after the riots of the 60s and the 70s, my brothers were all deep rooted in that. My mother is originally from Brooklyn, and my mother grew up in Bridgeport. So, during the week I would be in New Haven, and the weekends I would be a lot in Bridgeport with my older brothers. My mother was married twice. Sonny and Viv's on here on Shelton Avenue. My mother was married to Sonny originally. So in the mud hole, my brother used to run the restaurant there, the bar there. And my family is the Esdaile family, early 20s, That's when they pretty much settled here in New Haven from the islands. So my people are from the UNIA movement, Marcus Garvey movement. That's pretty much where our people come from. Constance Baker Motley from New Haven, Connecticut, who was Dr. Martin Luther King's attorney, who grew up out of the St. Luke's area and also over in that KSI area. She was Dr. Martin Luther King's personal attorney, graduate of Hill House, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of deep-rooted history around the Civil Rights Movement, the Black Panther Party, which your family comes from.
Yes, sir.
Was all rooted real deep and strong. The Warren Kimbroughs and all that. Those are all the kind of dudes that I looked up to. So even though we were doing what we were doing and, in the hip-hop, we always were rooted in the community. We never got too far from the community. So I always tried to keep that balance. No matter what I did, I always wanted to stay community oriented. So as a child, my grandmother was always like giving out food, and I remember us going to Ashman Street projects. I didn't want to do it and all that kind of stuff. I ain't trying to do all that stuff. I just want to go play. But still putting the seeds in me, as a child, always, give back and always look out for it. Never forget where you came from. So it was really exciting to get the NAACP Image Awards and say I'm from New Haven, Connecticut. That was a major achievement to me. It was one of the greatest feelings I've ever had. It gave me chills, and I hopefully gave everybody else chills.
That's a big award, man.
That was a big platform. It's a major day in my life.
It's black excellence. It is, man. It's black excellence, man. And
that was a great day. Great day.
I mean, but it's black excellence. Like when we hear that, you hear that statement, on a regular basis from your Diddy's and your Sean Carter's or whatever. But now we actually get to see it firsthand. You know what I mean?
In
like
from
one of our own, from our own neighborhood, and that's a whole totally different thing. You know what I mean? Like it's one thing to look at it on TV, but it's another thing to be like, I know Scott from the area, I know Scott from the neighborhoods. He's been riding around, throughout the community. Everything you just said, it's like this has been sewn into you deeply, from day one. It's
deep rooted.
So it all makes sense. Your journey makes sense now.
Right.
And it's more effective to me than, like you said, that you mentioned the Diddy's or whatever, but when you can see it and you can touch it and you can say, yo, Scott, talk to me, you know what I mean? And when it works like that, it's more helpful to the community, man. It's a lot more powerful because, the celebrities, they can dictate a lot of stuff, you know what I mean, as we see every day with these young kids with music and stuff like that, you know what I mean? But when you're there, physically there, like, because Scott, we can go back to where you were there for me, we talk about Black Expos and you know what I mean? There was a lot of teenagers that was driven and motivated by that, you know what I mean? Like it was something.
If we go back to Black Expo, I ran Freddie Fix a Parade. For a while too. I remember our fashion shows that we used to throw back in the day.
I was part of one of them.
We got our first rap van, and we were bringing everything that we were doing in New York and bringing it here to Connecticut. And I just always thought that, if you always go back to like how Whaley Avenue was live, Gulf Street Park was live. I remember during the summer, man, we would go to Gulf Street Park and then we'd play basketball all the way to about 10 o'clock. After that, we would go to Chico and Frankie's and hang out. Whaley Avenue was lit.
All the time.
lit.
Yeah, weather was crazy.
It was amazing, man. Remember when the starter jackets came out?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah, the starter.
Welly Avenue was amazing.
yeah.
Really, Gulf Street Park was amazing, right? They talk about Rucker Park and all that, but Connecticut was on fire.
Yeah, I heard it was
Then
Super
after
J
that,
and all of them back in the day.
We
I
leave
heard.
Chico and Frankie and all go back behind Mr. Ray's behind on Dixwell Avenue in the plaza. I mean, we would hang out all the way to the morning and do that all throughout the summer, man. And I just knew that Connecticut was just, in New Haven was just a very exciting place to be. Then we would go to New York and Delancey Street and shop and have a good time. And we were embraced by New York. We were embraced by New Jersey. And we had strong relationships in New York. And the people from New York would come down to Connecticut, and we had really good relationships. We were talking about Rock and Dapper Dan and all those individuals. I mean, they would come here, we would go there. You have a strong relationship with what's my man's name? The rapper. Kane. Damn, I can't even remember Kane.
Shout out to Big Daddy Kane.
I remember at the Freddie Fix-It Parade where all those rappers would be there and everybody was dapped out and the whips, the cars.
It's crazy.
The story from New Haven is amazing, right? But that's our culture, that's our root, that's our blood, that's the line that we come from. And, you know, that's what I represent, that's what we represent. And that's what, you know, the shoulders that we're standing on now. And I just think it's an amazing culture. I was really upset when the violence came in and all the murder and the killing that came in the 80s and the 90s because it destroyed that culture that we came up. Right. Yeah. So you don't see the Whaley Avenue and the Gulf Street Parks and all that kind of stuff anymore. New York preserved Rucker Park.
Yeah.
We didn't preserve it.
Yeah.
Which was a root of the long history of basketball. Also, the New Haven Coliseum, going to the basketball games at New Haven Coliseum's Cross and Hill House. Those games were like amazing, man. And the fashion show that you would see when people would come to those particular basketball games and stuff like that.
People come from all over.
Freddie Fix-It, I mean, people would prepare months in advance to get their runs and get their car painted and get their bike right.
If you didn't get your
You know what I mean? Am I lying? Yo, the Freddie was official, man.
Used to be like, yo, I gave my outfit. Yo, what you buy the outfit, man? I bought this outfit 2 months ago to save it for the Freddie.
You know what I'm saying?
If you didn't have your rims on your car right for the Freddie.
The Hill House Cross game, the football game on Thanksgiving, man. I used to sell a lot of leather jackets, man.
You was cold out there. You was right. You was smart guy.
Am I lying?
It's so much history.
On Whaley Avenue, I'll be killing them with the leather jackets.
But with the Freddie Fix-It Parade, people used to come from Jersey,
everywhere,
New York,
man.
You know,
huge,
Philly,
man.
and that just for that parade.
You played a major. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
You played a major part in the Freddie Fix-It Parade at some point, didn't you?
Yeah, I was the president of Freddie from, I think, 97 to 2000 because I became the president of NAACP in 2000, New Haven branch. And then I became the state conference president in 2004.
Nice.
And you've been that ever?
Well, then I became national board member, and now I represent from Delaware to Maine.
Wow.
Nice.
Right, so I'm on the national board, and I was a regional national board member. Yeah.
How is it balancing that with family and then finding your own time to have your personal peace?
Interesting piece also. When I got engaged at Black Expo. And at the time, I was back and forth from Harlem in New York. And I was managing rap groups and stuff like that. I was managing K Solo. I was also working with the time Redman and Keith Murray. I don't know if y'all remember when Keith Murray was in New Haven.
We were just talking about it.
Y'all remember that?
We were just talking about Keith.
Keith got locked up up here.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, we had the music factory. We had the music store like a block away.
Right, and we was on Whaley Avenue,
right
DCI.
across the block.
Yeah.
So we used to walk over there all
We used to run the Freddie Fix-It Parade out of there.
Right. That's right, because when I did the fashion show, we had a meeting in there.
That's right.
At
DCI, Daryl Jones, big shout out to my boy Daryl Jones. But back to the Black Expo. So Intro was the biggest R&B group at that particular time. And Kenny, who, God bless the dead, he passed away. He was the lead singer of Intro. And they were singing a song called Ribbon in the Sky.
Yeah, I remember that.
And at that time, they had the Uptown Comedy Club where we used to go every Sunday. My boys Richard Gray and Derek Gray, who went to Hill House, their sister Tracina Gray from New Haven was on WBLS at the time. And she was engaged to a brother that started Uptown Comedy on BET.
Gotcha.
right? You remember the Uptown Comedy Club on BET? That all was rooted from New Haven also. So every Sunday we used to go up to 125th Street and see Martin Lawrence, all the upcoming comedians at that particular time were coming up. Bernie Mac and all those dudes. What was my man, Bebe Kids and all that stuff?
Robin Harris.
Robin Harris. They were all up in there back in the day. So we saw them before they blew up. And out of that, you know, I would meet a lot of artists, and I would always try to get them to come back to New Haven, Connecticut. So Ron G, Kid Capri, and all of them, before Def Jam comedy blew up, it really started at Uptown Comedy Club. And that was when the DJs were in between the different comedians performing. So a lot of what was going on between the culture in New Haven and New York, I was bringing to the clubs down here in New Haven. And I go back to the intro piece because now I'm about to get engaged at Black Expo on Gulf Street Armory, across the street from my grandmother's old house. Because my grandmother's house was right where the COC is at.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So that's where the Esdaile's house was at. And there was the Esdaile Lounge, you know, on the other side of Gulf Street. But anyway, I say all that to say is that I got engaged I asked my wife to marry me in front of 5,000 people while Intro sang. And they sang Remember in the Sky to us in front of that. And Martin Lawrence gave me the idea, actually.
Wow.
That's a move right there.
Yeah,
He's
man.
showing off.
But I don't have it on video.
He's showing off now.
Listen, he showed. I mean, that's why he's here, man. And this is why I wanted to dig. You know what I mean? Because
That's never been on video, neither.
Right. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna get home. My wife will be like, "You didn't do that for me."
Yeah. What is he talking about?
You know, what's he talking about? You didn't. I didn't get that.
The dynamic and layers with
Yeah.
what we have here
Funny
with
intro, yeah.
Black greatness, as I say, man. I hear you talk about the correlation of New York and Connecticut a lot. You know what I mean? And you definitely played a major part in the historic comedy club.
Oh,
I mean, a Cotton Club.
Cotton
I'm sorry,
Club,
Cotton
right.
Club.
So
in Harlem.
and
That's something a lot of people don't know about.
I used to run the Cotton Club
in New York.
Cotton Club.
I used to run the Cotton Club on 125th Street.
The historic. You notice I said the historic.
Funny part, the funny thing is that
I said all the time.
Yeah.
So Pep Night and Joey sent me the show with Pep.
Okay.
Pep Night.
The one that Pep was just talking about it on the other show. But go ahead.
But y'all was talking about how H would be everywhere.
H,
Right.
Yeah. You
H was
mentioned
about
that. You
16,
mentioned that.
17,
Yeah.
and I was sneaking them in the club at Cotton Club. And they talking about how they met Ron G. I introduced them to Ron G. H, I introduced them to Ron G.
For the record. Tell him for the record.
For the record.
Now I understand.
It's my relationship, yo.
Yeah.
When Ron G came to Bassett Street Park,
Let's get it.
it was Elm City Nation that brought him there. Philadelphia against New Haven.
This is what I'm talking about. Let him know, Scott.
Yo, that's
Philly
funny.
on up,
For
yo.
the record.
That's funny.
Man, I'm just
That's
messing.
crazy.
Love you, H. Love you, Pep. Love you, KV.
We love
All
y'all,
y'all, man.
brothers.
Yeah.
Definitely
It's just to be with you. That's it.
H
It's
is my
everywhere.
man. H at 16, sneaking up in the Cotton Club with Pat from the Tribe. They used to come up every Wednesday. So
What
it
was
was,
that
it was
like,
after the
man?
Apollo Theater.
Okay.
And I had Kid Capri. Kid Capri got a job to WBLS.
Okay.
And then I had to find somebody, and I was at Bell's Fashions, working at Bell's Fashions on 125th Street. And Ron G was outside selling his tapes, killing them outside. I said, yo, man, I need a DJ, bro. He was like, yo, what's up? I remember, I think it was like $250 a night, man. I was paying him. Then he went up to $500. Then he went up to a G. Then I couldn't afford it. But he started at $250. You could ask him the story. He's up in Boston now. That's my man. And Ron G took over the Cotton Club, and man, we had 125th Street on fire.
That's crazy.
On fire, and half of New Haven was up in there, and all the whips from New Haven was up there. And it's New Haven and New York, and Hartford too. My boys from Hartford would come up. All my people from UConn would come up because UConn was starting getting on fire with the basketball thing. And then Cliff Robinson, and then Scotty Burrell and them was blowing up at UConn, and then Khalid El-Amin and them started coming up. Rip Hamilton, you know, UConn basketball was on fire. Then the girls started getting on fire. So, you know, it was just a awesome history, man. You know, just how all that stuff came together, and
It's amazing just to hear,
Yeah.
like, if you sit and think about what he just said in a few minutes, like the names he just dropped in a few
so
minutes.
then I take over to Freddie,
It's crazy.
and New York is popping on the basketball thing, but they don't really know about Connecticut basketball.
Right.
So when I took over to Freddie, I brought Gulf Street Park back, and I had Harlem and One Cats come down and play Connecticut.
Okay.
You talking about the Park Pack? It brought back the old history of Gulf Street Park.
Yeah.
And then the Freddie was on fire.
Always.
It came back on fire. And I brought all the dudes from Def Jam, my boys that worked on promotion for Def Jam. They brought all the rap vans down. Was my man Kingsley from Bridgeport. He was working.
Shout out to Kingsley.
He was working with
Another one.
he's a good one too. He was working with Gabi and them, with Fat Joe and all them. I actually brought Pun in them. Pun and we talked about it the other day. We had him at the Coliseum. Big Pun was Tariq and Peter Gunn.
Oh, Lord
yeah.
Tariq and Peter Gunn.
yeah,
just
we had
talking about-
them
yeah, just
at
talking
Black
about-
Expo.
Yeah.
I still got pictures of Pun, man, when he was there, and I mean, it's just a rich. I got so much.
Well, let's get it.
You got enough time for
We
it?
got all the time, man. We here with Scott X.
It's
man.
the Scott X
got a
takeover,
lot.
man.
It's the Scott X.
We just gonna
takeover,
put
man.
Scott X on the wall. It's Scott X takeover, bro.
Yeah,
We got a
let's
lot
get
of
that right
history.
there in that
Yo,
spirit.
for real,
Let's get
man.
a Scott X up there.
Yeah, man. We had K Solo, my man. The Brand Nubians perform here. I remember when Bink B, I was talking about Bink B and
Shout out to
Shorty
Bink.
Drip and them battling and all that stuff. That was a lot of fun during that time, man. A lot of time. There's a lot of rich history. Also, TC Islam, who passed away.
Yeah.
On the Zulu Nation was strong here in New Haven at one time. Y'all remember that? Yeah, man. God
Play
bless
it
the
loud.
dead TC, man.
Mr. Play It Loud, remember?
Yeah.
Before your time.
I ain't gonna say your age right now.
But we had a rich history between New York and Connecticut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what's up, man. That's pretty
Yeah.
solid.
But those basketball games were great. And we brought Philly up too. Yeah.
Philip to playing like a tournament. or
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that, right?
One time we were going to start a league with Philly, Harlem, Connecticut, and Boston with my boy Mike Biv up in Boston. He got a crazy basketball league up in Roxbury. So we were going to have it where we would have a game. Well, I was doing First Fridays too. That's a whole history around First Fridays also. So we can go
You can
into
tell
that
that
a little
too.
bit. Yeah,
First Fridays was huge.
Yeah, it
First
was
Friday
big.
was
First
crazy.
Fridays was crazy
That
in
was
Connecticut.
big. That was big. So, in reference to, we were going to do the first Fridays on Friday night. Then the next day we would do the basketball all day, tournaments.
Yep.
And then we would do another after party on Saturday. So it'd be like a weekend thing. And then we were going to bring all the bikes, to have a bike show, a car show, similar to what Funkmaster Flex and them
It
are
was
doing now.
definitely crazy.
But we were doing that stuff way before all that stuff
Yeah.
popped off.
So at what point, like, because I'm hearing all this stuff and I'm like, you were like music exec,
All that. Community
community
activist,
activist,
Man,
restaurant, sell you a fish sandwich, sell you a bootleg CD,
Now you know
and
how
a
to
leather
get an
jacket.
image award.
Yeah, I mean, this
Now you
is
know how to get an image award.
so you're basically
Asshole.
telling us what we have to do. You have to start.
Right.
We
This
way
is the
behind.
beginning. Yeah, this is the beginning.
We way behind, man. Oh
I'm
man,
glad it's recording. I'm just gonna take notes later.
you gotta put
That's funny.
a few more years in to get an image award. You just can't wake up and think you're gonna get one.
Nah,
It took a long time to get that one.
He had
Leather
30.
jacket,
He had
everything.
35. Right?
Get you an 8-ball jacket.
He had 35.
Man, so where do you go from going there to getting the image? What's next for you? Like, where do we go? Where do we go next? Because I know you have a lot of things going on that you're still working in the community. Reform is a big thing for you.
In 2017, I was selected to be the National Criminal Justice Chair for the NAACP. Yeah, so I got the opportunity to travel around the country. So go to Compton, all the major black communities, Detroit, spent a lot of time in Detroit, Chicago, Liberty City down in Miami, Houston, Texas. I got into the boxing thing too. I got to talk about boxing also.
Yeah.
I'm also the boxing commissioner for the state of Connecticut. So that's a whole nother, we might have to do.
Yeah, no. We're gonna get into
That's
that.
part
We'll
three.
get it- Nah, we're gonna get into that. You know what I mean? We should get into that today.
But I got to go
think
back to
we're
criminal justice though, right?
No,
Yeah.
I think that's what I was about to say. I definitely, because it's interesting. I know you travel and you work with a lot of kids, young
Right,
kids. You know what I
right.
mean? And I want to get some of those stories, man, on what it's like in Chicago, because it's terrible in Chicago, bro.
But I mean, pound for pound, it's rough everywhere.
No, that's a
But
fact.
Chicago's,
Yeah.
like you said, is off the
It's a fact,
chain.
man.
Philly, off the chain. They
Yeah.
call it Philadelphia.
Yeah.
St. Louis, off the chain. Baltimore,
Yeah.
rough, man.
Right.
Baltimore, rough.
Baltimore,
Bridgeport,
leaving bodies in the building.
big Bridgeport, big Bridgeport.
It's crazy.
I think
Bridgeport, rough.
Yeah.
Hartford, New Haven, rough, man. For the size, you know what I mean?
Right. Because that's
For
what
the
it's
size of
based
these
off
towns,
of,
man.
Because at one time we was like rated like in the top 5 most
Yeah, we were,
dangerous
yeah.
cities.
which makes no sense
Which
whatsoever.
is
Well,
sad
no,
because,
I
agree, man. Because we come from a different culture. Man.
It don't make no sense, but what it is that's what I'm saying, and that's what we was talking about on the other show. When you start to deal with numbers and shit, it's based on the population, really. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's
Because
pound
it's
for
such a
pound,
small population.
We're only
You know what I mean?
140,000
Exactly.
people,
You
right.
understand what I'm saying? So if you
There's
look
5
at
million
small,
people in Chicago.
Right, exactly. You feel
Right.
what I'm saying? So you look at the scale. If it's like, if you had
If you're in New York, you don't see no violence.
exactly,
Right.
you know what I mean? It
There's
don't really
10 million
matter. It's
people.
just there's so many people.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
And then going back to the numbers, when you talk about 80 to 85% of the families that are in Chicago right now are growing up with just the mother.
one mother, right?
You know,
And I'm not
it's-
saying there's no violence in New York.
No,
but I
no,
mean,
no,
you don't,
no,
you
no,
don't
no.
see it if you don't
Yeah,
see it.
because of the
Exactly.
population
Right,
size
right,
and the size of it. But yes, please get back into
The criminal justice system.
yes.
So I got the opportunity to travel the country and do an assessment around the country. One thing that I learned, though, that I was seeing as a common denominator is that with this reentry thing through the mass incarceration, so many young brothers now coming out of jail. All right. And I was seeing, well, actually, the complaints were coming to me that this reentry thing was nothing but a hustle and that they were pimping our suffering. And I'm like, what are you talking about? They were like, hey, Scott, I'm telling you, man, I done pulled up my pants. I'm covered up my tattoos. I cut off my braids. I did everything they asked me to do. I'm wearing shirt and ties every day. I'm doing everything they're asking me. I'm doing all this training and all this stuff that they got me going doing. And it's like a training, and no job. Training, and no job. All this stuff is BS, yo. So I'm listening to them like, yo, you just ain't doing right. Boom, 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 boom. Hear the same thing in Chicago. Yo, you got to check this thing out, man. Yo, this thing ain't right. Go to Detroit. It ain't right. LA. It ain't right. Houston. It ain't right. I'm like, Little Rock, Arkansas, another rough city. It ain't right. I'm like, yo, something ain't right. So when I get back home, I start going through all the neighborhoods and communities, and I start, listen, I got to get into the office because, you know, I'm in Hartford, in the Ivory Towers, at the legislative building. I said, nah, I got to get back out into the street and figure out what's going on. Start talking to the people, and they're like, yo, Scott, you got to come check this out. This ain't right. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, that we're getting the training, but these companies ain't hiring us. So I said, with the relationships that we have with the NAACP, I said, instead of them just giving us a $20,000, $25,000 check or $50,000 check or whatever, and then they're acting like they're doing so much for the community, I said, we got to dig deeper in reference to saying, like, if you really want a relationship with us and say that we have a partnership, you're going to have to put some jobs aside for people in our communities because we got to, you know, you got to deal with this violence issue. Right. And we got to deal with the poverty issue, and we also got to deal with the unemployment issue. And the breaking down of the family. When a man has a check, you know what I'm saying, he's able to bring a check and a career to the table. Right. He's able to talk to his woman with some leverage and be able to build a partnership and build a family around that. Yeah. And so I got busy and I started, you know, asking and doing my due diligence and doing investigation, put my whole team together. We got to find out who is the best company out here so we have a model around formerly incarcerated individuals. So out of that, to make a long story short, I found, I'm not saying they're the best, but the best I found. There might be another best company out there, but the best that I found was Johns Hopkins Hospital.
That's a start. Yeah,
so I found out Johns Hopkins Hospital, and they had 50,000 people within their network, and 10% of their employees were formerly incarcerated individuals. So I was like, this can't be true. I said, I got to go check it out. So we took the train down. I went to go visit the president and CEO, the head of human resources, the head of security, all of them. They brought me around, and we kicked the tires, looked up under the hood because, you know, I knew this couldn't be. Oh, they just did it all because the NAACP walked up there. But I said, nah, I need to go talk to the people. So I went down and talked to the brothers and the sisters, and they were like, yo, this is real. You know, I got a job. You know, I am the Little League baseball coach in the community. I'm back in church. I'm doing this. I'm like, whoa. Go talk to the sisters. I was like, wow, this is solid. I said, so I went back to Yale and was like, yo, y'all know what's going on at Johns Hopkins Hospital? I said, if they're doing it, you know, why can't we do it here?
Exactly.
So at the time, the head of human resources, Kevin Myatt, who's a good friend of mine, he said that he knew about it. He was like, yo, you got to talk to the president, you know. I would love to do it. You know, I'm a good Christian brother. I want to do the right thing. I want to give people a meaningful second chance. So I had him on board, and then I went and talked to the leadership, and they said, yo, let's do it. So I had the president of Johns Hopkins meet with the heads of Yale and the head of the Connecticut Hospital Association. So there's a network of 27 hospitals across the state of Connecticut. I said, I want to sign an agreement with all y'all. And I said, I got the president of Johns Hopkins Hospital here, ready, you know, to give you all of the formula of what you need to carry it out. And they signed the agreement. The sad part is that COVID hit right after.
Yeah.
But then, you know, once we kind of like getting back up on our feet, we announced the Million Jobs campaign for the formerly incarcerated, and it's up and running. I had my boy Judge Mathis from Detroit come down.
Come on, man. Come on.
And we made the big announcement.
That's real work right there.
Yeah, but the big thing was that they wanted to have it in Chicago and Detroit.
Yeah.
I was like, nah, I can't be out here telling everybody that I'm doing all this stuff and I don't do it in Connecticut. I do it in my home
you gotta
first.
bring it home.
So I went to the national board. I said, I got to do this at home first for the pilot. And they gave me the approval, so we got it up in Connecticut. So it's up and running. We started in New Haven. We're going to Hartford next. We go to Bridgeport. We go to Waterbury. Then we go to New London. Then I'm going to expand and go into advanced manufacturing. We're going to bring in Electric Boat, Pratt & Whitney, and Sikorsky also. I'm having some problems with those defense industries because they're saying that they can't have formerly incarcerated individuals.
Right.
Listen to this, though. It's BS also. There's no law, and I had Blumenthal's team and Senator Murphy look into it.
Okay.
There's no law that says that you can't hire formerly incarcerated people. Those are policies of the company.
Law. Okay.
So there's no law that says that you can't hire them.
Gotcha.
So in those companies, it's like $80,000, $90,000 a year jobs.
Right.
So if they're able to get trained and prepared in prison, imagine them coming out to $80,000, $90,000 a year jobs if they're qualified to perform at a professional level.
It sets the tone. You know.
You won't be thinking about no crime at that point. You'd be like, crime.
Imagine you and your wife getting that. That's a nice.
You'll be calling the police yourself. Listen.
Now we can get people in, they can become homeowners. Down closing payment assistance and all that kind of stuff. We can give them all kinds of programs. So we can transform our communities through working.
Right.
And getting our communities back to where we can get it back to where we grew up. And Whaley Avenue will be lit and Gulf Street Park will be lit and there'll be no violence and all that kind of stuff. So that's my goal and my dream to, you know,
You're revitalizing,
bring it back to our childhood.
Yeah, you're revitalizing the black family. You're revitalizing the family itself.
Now Malcolm X and Dr. King agreed that the greatest social program out of all programs is a job.
Facts.
Now the next thing is to get into business after that, but it all starts with getting the cash flow and getting into business, and then you save your money, then you put your business plan together, buy a couple cribs and all that kind of stuff.
I mean, that's
then you start making your move.
That's always been a thing. Like
then you can live the American dream.
For us, we've always been a step or four behind because we're not afforded the same opportunities as other people. You know what I mean? But if we need to be taught the trades, we need to be taught finance.
Right.
You know, one of the big things for me, and I always talk to Joe about this, is the finance numbers. I'm a big numbers guy, you know, but so many of us just don't understand the numbers. So many of us don't even know how to write a check the proper way. You know what I mean? So it's like the training on top of what you're doing, and then just telling people, you know, what they need to do to be able to save, to start a 401k, to get life insurance and stuff like that.
That doesn't happen if you don't have a job.
Exactly. It doesn't happen. It's got to start somewhere.
It's got to start with a job. Though.
So, yeah, but we have to have the tools, and it sounds like you're putting all the pieces to the puzzle in place.
I'm working on it, but the key is to get the smartest and most intelligent people around the table, and let's make decisions collectively and together. And let's make the best decision for ourselves and for our community.
Now, the million jobs program, is it just strictly with jobs, or does it take those that do go through that actual program to get jobs? Does it like help monitor them in any way with like home ownership and things like that? You know,
it starts with getting the job. Then once we get the job, as you had stated, that the next thing is to sustain the job.
Right.
And then after that, then it's all about economic development and economic empowerment and economic education, right?
Yeah,
So the more you're informed, then you can make decisions
better
with the
you
money.
can do.
Right.
But first, you got to get that job.
Yeah. First,
And I can keep you out of trouble
right.
Yeah.
once you got a check.
Well, that's the start, man.
Right.
You know what I mean? You got to help me help you.
So that's the key right there. First thing I do is get you.
I'm a strong believer. Everyone deserves a second, third chance, man.
That's
We
right.
just, you know,
Definitely.
that's
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
amazing, man.
That's right.
Listen, I got to say, I got a brother that's here. He in the back over there chilling, but
That's my guy.
I got a brother just finished doing 30 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
It's
he's
life
home.
changing.
He's doing great. Man. Shout out to you, bro.
Nah,
He's home. He's doing great. He's
My
working.
brother just
you know
did
what I mean?
20, yeah. Nah, that's
Yeah,
real.
he came home. He started he started working full time. He came home on a Monday. He came home on a Monday, and he was working full time for Monday now. I still don't even get to see him and shit. He's working. It's all good though. He's doing good. He's solid. He got his own crib, working. He's doing good, man. So shout out to
That's
you,
what's
bro.
up.
But just
Get
think
back to the show,
about
huh?
the people who think about those people who come home after 10, 20, 30 years
Yeah.
and they just can't find their way. You know what I mean? We have to be in touch with them. We have to, you know, get a hold of them and try to put them on track. You know, there's so many. I mean, when you start talking about Chicago, you know, these kids go in, they come out, and they're doing the same thing over and over again. And
That's an American problem.
it's a huge
Really,
problem.
Chicago is a reflection of what's going on across America.
Yeah, absolutely,
It's a
absolutely.
reflection of what's going on across
You
America.
know, I mean, Chicago is, if they're not the worst, I mean, who is? Like,
What was it like talking to the kids out there, man?
Well, it was actually, man, I got to be honest with you, man. I got a lot of love in Chicago. Man.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy, though, because they have a lot of trust issues. And a lot of people have come to the city with all these different aspirations and all these different things about how they're going to save the world and all that stuff. But I have to be honest, in the beginning, it was kind of rough. Now, when I was first started with the we even go into Elm City Nation, but when I worked with Elm City Nation, we used to go into Webster Correctional Facility, and you know Landy, KV, Larry Young. We had a whole crew that used to go into the prisons, and we had a huge prison program in the prison. And out of that, there was a young brother that was in Yale Divinity School at that time. His name is Otis Moss III. He was out of Cleveland. He's now the pastor of Trinity Church in where Barack Obama and Michelle Obama, remember all the controversy when Obama?
Yeah.
He's now the minister of that church. Reverend Wright was the minister. But it was really interesting that he used to, you know, go around the community and preach and be a part of Elm City Nation. And then when that whole thing broke out with Obama and they made the new decision of the new minister that was going to be in Chicago at Trinity Church, they announced Otis Moss III, and me and all the people from New Haven was like, yo, that's Otis.
Yo.
Otis walked up there, you know, gave us a shout out to New Haven about it. I'm like, oh, it was crazy. He said, yo, I got to tell you about this dude named KV. I was saying, this dude Scot X. It was amazing, man.
Nice.
He said, I cut my teeth working in New Haven when I was a pastor. I mean, I was in divinity school. It was amazing, though. But out of that, when I went out to Chicago, I had the meeting at Trinity Church.
Yep.
And Otis gave me the church to sit down with all of the activists in the community. And by Otis giving me the nod, I had more leverage to move through the community. And I worked with the NAACP on the south side and the west side. But they really got a lot of issues with that south and that west side. So if you want to meet on the south side, you got to also meet on the west side. And if you meet on the west side, you got to make sure you meet on the south side. So, I mean, it's interesting with the different cultures when you go to different cities and how they do business and how they move and how they interact. But Chicago was a very interesting experience, and that's an experience that I'll treasure for the rest of my life also. But I got to go back to say what I'm doing next. Minneapolis.
Minneapolis is next.
So I just spent 2 weeks in Minneapolis. With the Sounds of Blackness choir.
Okay.
I actually met them at the Image Awards when I got the award. Big shout out to Gary Haynes, who is the director of the Sounds of Blackness choir. And I spent 2 weeks out there just doing fact finding and meeting with the people and walking through the communities, hanging out at George Floyd Square, I went over to because Twin Cities, I went over to St. Paul's on the other side of the bridge. Minneapolis is on one side, and St. Paul's is on the other side. But the riots that happened, the bombs and all of the burning of the buildings. Now that the cameras are off, people still got to live in them communities.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of families have been displaced, right? And there's a lot of violence now. The gangs are erupting, and there's a lot of chaos, as you could imagine. And so I say all that to say is that the next thing that I'm going to be doing is working on a National Criminal Justice Summit in Minneapolis. Well, criminal justice advocates from around the country will be coming to have a huge summit to talk about not only what happened in Minneapolis, but through all those riots that happened throughout the country. So Chicago was burnt down, Baltimore was burnt down with the Freddie Gray riots. Even New York had mad marches and riots and all that kind of stuff. St. Louis and Ferguson and all that kind of stuff. So much has happened with the Breonna Taylor and Dallas and all that stuff. So I'm gonna have all these different activists come to Minneapolis and have this huge conversation. It's gonna be a whole week. So next year we're gonna do it, and I'm gonna be working on it for the whole next year.
What?
So I would love for you guys to come out and
Absolutely.
representing New Haven. You know?
I can speak personally for me. I'm sure, for the record,
definitely.
for us, and anything you need from us, man.
Yeah, it'd be great for y'all to be right on the scene. You know?
We're there.
Before we move on, I just want to know, because I want people to understand, like, what was that energy like, man, to be there? And
amazing, man.
Like, you know what I mean?
Just walking through the communities and seeing how, all the destruction.
Because the George Floyd murder activated something that we've never seen
for a minute.
In our lifetime.
In our lifetime.
I know it happened in the 60s, but in my lifetime, I was too small to really understand what was going on.
Yeah, the riots and shit like that.
Yeah,
what happened with, you know,
We
in
saw
the
it.
middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
It was crazy the way we stood up and just went out there to.
It was bubbling
what I mean?
up though, you know, the pressure, man.
It was a powder keg, right? And it just exploded.
You get to a point where enough is like
People had enough.
Enough is enough.
People had
man.
enough.
Yeah.
Now, but there's another piece to this, and I think that this is something that we had to look at. And I had this conversation out in Minneapolis and several other cities across the country. When these riots happen, right? Let's just look at this building, right? If a young 15, 16-year-old threw a cocktail bomb at this building, they don't know how to burn this whole building down.
Right.
And a cocktail bomb will not burn this whole building down.
Right.
Right? We all come from the community. We know exactly what a young kid is capable of doing or not. If he pulled out a 9, he couldn't destroy this building. Right? If he pulled out an Uzi, he couldn't destroy this building. You got to be a certified professional arsonist to burn this building down.
That's a fact.
And several buildings throughout the community like
That's
that.
a fact.
So there was other resources and other agendas that were being carried out that were economic agendas, right? Burning down auto zones and burning down like Macy's and stuff. You got to have a major operation
There was videos
to burn, right?
There was videos
So there were
of
people from outside of our communities coming in
and doing certain
that were professional arsonists and had military training to burn at that level. You with me?
Yeah.
And these were cities all across America. So you can imagine the insurance companies that were involved. But nobody really wants to talk about this. But I think that conversation has to happen because you're leaving our people to live in these conditions. And then they come in, buy the property dirt cheap. And then regentrify.
Exactly.
So it's a bigger plan orchestrated, I think, with banks outside of this.
Absolutely.
And I think that we all need to have that in-depth conversation, and the research needs to be done.
Which is honestly, it's been going on since the beginning of time. It's just, again, nobody wants to
And they
talk
say, oh, the
about
kids did it. Ain't no kids do that.
Kids do that.
It's the cliche question though. Why aren't we having these conversations? You understand what I'm saying? Like,
because then, you know, what happens is we get all these conversations get pushed to the side because wait, what happens? The newest dance craze comes out or the newest sneaker comes out, and it's just the back.
Put you back on the TikTok stuff.
Let's hypnotize them with that. Let's give them a new platform for that.
Look how many likes he got.
Let's put out this new music over here, and we just keep.
And let me just say this about your show: don't worry about the likes.
Nah.
Just keep the quality.
Yeah.
All that else is gonna come, but just stay true to your moral compass, and God will always bless you. don't do all the gimmicks and all that stuff. I think what Biggie said, I see the gimmicks, the whack. You know I can spit.
Joe and I talk about that, like, because
don't get caught up in the gimmicks.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of gimmicks out there when you talk about podcasts, and I talk to Joe about it all the time, and I'm like, you know what? You look at some of these numbers that people are doing, and I'm like, you know what? I know how they did it. They're buying their numbers. Right. You know what I mean? They're buying their numbers, they're buying their views and stuff like that. We don't want to do that.
Stay true, bro.
You know what I mean?
Stay true.
Like, and the temptation is there. You go, oh, well, fuck. No.
Don't sell out.
Our subscribers are real. The people who are
the engagement.
The engagement is real.
I love this show.
So thank you.
Appreciate it. See what I'm saying?
Appreciate it.
I know now how likes. I couldn't turn it off.
Right.
Because I was the only thing I was pissed with. Mr. Pep, I introduced y'all to Ron
G. What's up with that?
Is Pep here?
No.
Oh, my bad. Pep, I introduced you to Ron. Is camera 3?
It is somebody.
I introduced you to Ron G.
For the record.
The man we just was talking about a little while ago, Phil Blunt, just walked up.
Oh, where he at? I can't see him.
Peace, man.
My man. What up, Phil?
Peace, man.
My God. What's up, good brother? We got to talk. I heard you still spitting heavy.
Heavy.
Man, I got to get you on my show.
Yo, we got you lined up for something, too.
Say no more. You got some managers up in here advocating.
Heavy.
It's all family. That's my guy right there. Love you, bro.
Yeah, but to speak back to the point, I mean, we have to get out of that reprogramming. That's why we can't have these conversations, because we're constantly blinded by other things. You know what I mean? Like when COVID first hit. Yeah. If you think about COVID hit, I was sitting there, I'm watching it, and I had a hard, tough bout with COVID. And I'm sitting there listening to the news, and all of a sudden they start talking about aliens. I'm like, why are we discussing aliens right now? Where did this come from? It's
that's the
distractions. And that's what we keep going through. That's why we can't have these conversations about what's going on in our community. You know, what the preservation of the black man, the preservation of the black woman. We don't have these conversations enough because we're too busy with Jordans.
We got to stop letting
we got to get away from
narrative. We can take the narrative.
Well, that's the problem. The people
change the narrative
that are controlling our narrative are our own people. Like, we got to take responsibility. Like I said earlier, a lot of these celebrities, man, are controlling these people with like fucking remote controls. But nobody's like really helping us. Like, and that's why I said we got to applaud you. Because you're here with us. Like, you understand what I'm saying? Like, Jay-Z told motherfuckers years ago, put on a button-up shirt, and niggas had the joints down to their waist looking like clowns and everything. You know what I mean? But they just control the narrative. I mean, the ones that can control these kids that are on TikTok, that we're like, we don't get solid shit for our kids on that every day, man.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? And I think, on some real shit, we got to take some responsibility for this.
Yes, we do. Yeah, we do.
And that's, like you said, these conversations that's not being had, this is the shit that's not being had to me. Right. Like, when we going to take some responsibility for our own kids?
Now.
So when you say take responsibility, what do you mean by that, though?
What do I mean?
It's kind of abstract. When you say take responsibility, what do you mean by that?
I mean, like, you know, let's take example, let's deal with the social media part.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Everything is all good, and we talk about the shooting and we talk about the killing, and it's all kiki ha until somebody get killed, and now everybody's saying RIP, RIP, because I'm the type of person, I don't want to see that shit at that time. I'm just keeping it a stat. You understand what I'm saying? Because we're never proactive. You understand what I'm saying? Our communities, somebody get killed, and then everybody go march for a day or two. You understand what I'm saying? Like, why are we not marching now?
Right.
You know what I mean? These are the conversations that I feel like are not being had. Why isn't our community coming together and having meetings with our own communities? That's what that shit was like, and maybe it could be from my Black Panther roots. That's what it was about. Like, we got instructions from our community on how to run our community and build our shit up. You know what I mean? Now I feel like we taking walks to places where people that don't live in our community are telling us how to run our community and what it's like. Yeah. That's why I tell you, and you know, it's interesting to a lot of people. I'm not really big on stats because I see a lot of shit go on in my neighborhood because I'm there right now, and downtown is stats to the people that quote unquote don't live in my neighborhood. Right. But when I know my neighbor is alcoholic and her husband is whatever he is, and they fighting every day, and you get calls every day to the police station about, those are stats that are going up. That's saying it's violent next door to my house, and that ain't nothing but I don't condone it. You understand what I'm saying? But that's what it's numbers, bro. Right. So when they come in my neighborhood, it's like, yo, it's bad over there based on the numbers, and these are the people who are controlling our narratives and our communities.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying.
If that makes any
Absolutely.
sense to you,
I'm just thinking, that's all.
The other part of it
I think that would, I'm sorry.
No. I was going to just quickly say the other part of it is, to touch on your point, is a lot of it is Cubs leading the Cubs. You have this mentality that we should be advancing as we get older in our age. We should know how to do certain things. But when you have the adults that are too busy wrapped into the social media, and you have the child that all they're doing is saying, here, go sit in front of this.
There we go.
It's not helping anything. Like, go pick up a book.
And guess what?
Like, we've gotten away from that a little bit.
That goes it goes back to, not to cut you off, answering your question, what do I mean by taking responsibility? These are the things that I'm talking about, taking responsibility. Yeah. The other day, I'm looking on social media. I'm old enough to, cipher through shit, like, you know what I mean? But I seen a girl who was doing some dancing and shit, and the baby is not even 2 years old behind her twerking, and she can't shut the camera off quick enough, so she got to go grab the baby. It's too late. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. We got to take responsibility for that shit, man.
I get that.
Where I'm coming from is, I think we need to have those conversations at the table, in the household. You know what I'm saying? Start there. Like, start with your kids.
Yeah, but
or
they're
whatever.
not.
I'm just saying what I think should happen, and maybe it'll catch on. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know who knows how to solve
there
this,
are people out there advocating for us. There are people, you know what I mean, that are out there that want better. It's a lot of shit. Listen, don't get me wrong. It's a lot of empowering and informative stuff on social media, man. You know what I mean? Like,
but is it too spotty? Is it too spotty, or is it not?
I've learned a lot of stuff through social media.
I don't think people really want to get on it, because
you have to take the good with the bad.
You got algorithms too.
Stuff,
You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. They're gonna push what you want to see. Right. You feel what I'm saying?
Right.
So we still be in control. They're gonna push what you want to see. If your daughter grab your phone and you looking at something, she looking at Teletubbies all day, I don't know, whatever, and you looking at rap videos all day, you know what I mean? When she grab your phone, that shit is gonna shoot rap videos all day. Exactly. It ain't gonna shoot no Teletubbies to her. It's gonna shoot her Teletubby.
And it may be a little bit difficult to have that conversation at the home, at the table, because then you have the households that have just one parent. You have the households that are there's no parent present.
There's really no table in our neighborhoods, bro.
There's no table.
This is real shit. This is real shit. There's no really.
I know it's bad. Both parents are out working and the kid's home alone.
There's really no table.
There's so many different.
Well, guess what? You got to make some time. Ain't no way you're gonna tell me that you can't sit down and talk to your kids for 10, 15 minutes. Like, come on. Like, at some point, you got to get to the point where, all right, we're gonna make 15 minutes. You just gotta work. You tired. I get it, but you got to make that time. Like, how else you going to do it? If not, you compete with the TV, watching them for 8 hours straight. You know what I'm saying? And you come home and you don't do nothing. Like, you don't even give it a shot.
That's the reality, bro.
No, I know it's the reality, but we got to change that. That's what I mean. Like,
we got to take responsibility for it. You got to I don't mean you.
Not
but
me personally.
Even
I will,
because
I do.
With us as men, like, you know what I mean? On some real shit, like, if I'm all my boys, I must say, I know they keep it a stack. Everybody that I know that I deal with, they take care of their kids, whether they're in relationships or not. But what I'm saying is, I'm not fucking with you as a man if you can't take care of your seed. Like, I don't care who you are. Right. You understand what I'm saying? Because if you my man and you're not aware of what you should be doing, I'm gonna holler at you like, yo, my man, you got to do right by that. And if you can't take care of, like, there's no way we going to chill or go to the fight or some shit, and I know you're not taking care of your kid. Like, I don't fuck with somebody like that, because you can't take care of me if you're not taking care of your child, man. What we gonna do?
For real.
That's a lot.
Yeah, we need to say this in front of him, though.
That's a lot.
Because you're the one that could bring it
Well,
to
he's
that
changing
level.
that, and
You
that's
know
why
what
we
I'm
got
saying?
him here,
That's
man.
why
Let's go.
You can sit
Where
there
we at,
soaking
man?
up right now. Be SpongeBob
Where you
right
wanna go,
now.
man? Where you want to take it to Virginia State? What's going on? You looking shot? Hey, what's going on,
Where
man?
you want to go, man?
Huh? Where we want to go,
Where
man?
you
We
wanna
want
go
to
next?
take. Let's go to.
I mean, you've been in the middle of all these conversations for 35 some odd years, right?
Imagine, right?
You know what I mean?
A lot
So-
has changed. Some has not changed.
Exactly.
A lot has changed, though.
You know, the things that change, you kind of applaud it, but the stuff that hasn't changed, you buckle up, and you try to figure it out. Try to
But one
navigate
thing
your way
also
through it.
about social media is giving you guys an opportunity to have this show.
right,
Right.
Yeah, there we go.
the gift. That's
Right,
the gift
right,
of it.
right. So,
Yeah, we forcing those
so there's a gift and
conversations.
curse with everything. That's
Yeah,
the
it
balance
is.
of life.
It is.
Right? So
It is.
just do what you got to do to take advantage and do what you can and give your input, and the rest gonna fall where it may.